Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Rusty, how are you?
We got a little bit of an imbalance here.
Alone over here. Well, you know, I guess I could, we could film.
Oh, y'all got Warren's on that side. Y'all good.
Alright.
You're covered over here.
You hold your chair, I'm on mine, we got it.
Steve's got his work cut out for him over here. All right.
All right.
You will notice on the board, please read them real quick. Their big thing is there will be no PM activities today. And the church office will be closed tomorrow.
Nada. None.
And our Bible study has been canceled for those of us that are in there.
Oh, you don't have to get up early tomorrow then.
Yeah, I got to do something with my truck.
What that did to you?
So, prayer request?
I don't have a prayer request, but I thought Larry and them might be here, but they're down to one car still. They still don't know exactly what's wrong with Kieran's car. But Larry went to that doctor on Thursday, and they said that COVID did not cause his pulmonary fibrosis. They said apparently he's had it. How long? They have no idea because there's no timeline to go to. At this time, they're not going to put Larry on a transplant because he said he's far away from that.
Good.
He's on this medication that the pulmonary doctor here gave him, and that doctor at Baylor said, this is the right medicine to be on, and you'll be on it for the rest of your life. He said, you're 70, soon to be 75. He goes, if God gives you 7 or 8 more years before this really starts becoming an issue, that's a blessing, because they said the transplant would possibly, with no complications, give him another 10 years. He goes, that'll make me 95. Why do I care if I live to 95? So like I said, it's quality over quantity. But he goes back on November.
Bless
you. He goes back on November 21st, and they're going to do an echocardiogram. They're going to try to get a timeline of when this might have started. It's in
So
the lower,
he's good. You don't need
yeah,
surgery.
it's in the lower part of his lungs. So
Okay.
just pray that his health stays good.
Good.
Kim had strep throat.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get by Billy.
No wonder you're sneezing.
Let me go wash my hands. We shook hands.
I've been away from her.
I hit it, but I don't think I shook hands.
That's horrible.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Dewey and them are traveling home today in this weather from the Deerleys.
That'll be all right.
I know, but it's Kevin.
Who's driving?
It's Kevin and Dewey during this truck.
Well, man, I'd be all right. Do his driving.
Rusty?
My daughter-in-law, Ramona, in fact, she got the shingles.
Joanne, when did you go have that port put in?
Wednesday.
What time?
I was going to say, she goes Wednesday.
1 o'clock.
Okay.
Port, is it? No, we got to be there at 1.
We have to be there at 11.
Yeah, we got to be there at 11. It goes in at 1. And then her first treatment will be on the 10th.
All righty. You got this. You do. I was right there with you in that room. You got it.
Hey, Les, you want to pray for us?
So, gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for another day of life, Lord. Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here in your house. Lord, I want to lift up all the ones that we mentioned this morning to you. You know their needs. You know what needs to be done, what's needed in their life, Lord. Lord, there's some also out there today. Let him be found. Don't let him walk away untouched. Bless the service. Bless what we're going to hear this morning. Let it be what you want us to hear, Lord, not what is said, but what you want us to hear, Lord. Watch over us, lead, guide, and direct us. Precious holy name, we pray. Amen.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing that Brad announced, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat again. No PM activities, no prayer groups tonight.
No gyms.
No nothing.
Those are the gyms.
Did anybody read the lesson? Anybody Okay, we got 3 or 4. I'm sure glad I didn't read it. No, I just told you. Does it matter if I tell a story in here or lie in here?
Here's no different than anywhere else.
Yeah, no, it don't make any difference where you're at. That's all false. Huh. All right,
Are y'all ready to start? Are we all ready to start?
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know how y'all's book is laid out. Our book is laid out real different from what the other ones have been. This is just learning to use this book is going to be a learning experience this round. So
yeah, there was a note in mine that said discuss question 1. I'm going, where was it?
where was it?
But when it did say discuss question 1, it gave me the question. I don't know that I'm going to discuss it, but
Yeah.
so all the normal readers are not here.
The question 1 is, what's something you get tired of doing over and over again?
I wouldn't read it. I was afraid what people would say. I know we don't get tired of coming to church every Sunday morning and hearing the same old Sunday school teacher. I'm sure y'all don't get tired of that.
Oh, yeah.
I get tired of it.
Just take a vote.
All in favor?
I'll vote. Guarantee you I
Want me to
will.
read it?
So, chapter 1, like Brad said, this book is not quite like the ones we've gotten in the past. It has the table of context without any verses. So if you want to go see what the verses are going to be, you got to go to the lesson. I don't know if they did that on purpose, or maybe I've never paid attention to it or not, but I don't see any more lessons in Ecclesiastes.
They have them in ours. They have the verses next to the lessons in ours.
Not the table, not in ours, the table of
Okay,
context.
I'm just saying ours is weird.
It doesn't look anything like the.
Maybe they just want y'all to, they're encouraging y'all to actually study.
No, they're trying
Why?
to confuse. They're trying to
Why
confuse
would we
us.
study?
They're teachers, they're supposed to know it already.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it.
Does that
Well,
did you
that's
say
where
we
you-
know it all?
Well, we got you fooled.
Well, it just so happens I've studied this one before, and I actually did study it. But anyway, chapter 1, verse 1 said the words of the preacher, and that's not our preacher. Okay, I know he likes to be called preacher, but that's not him. So the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Let me read that again real slow. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. And there's some commentaries where I read they're going to go ahead and accredit this to Solomon. Read the first sentence, guys. Vanity of vanities, say the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit had a man of all of his labor which he has taken under the sun? The key words in this whole and all through Ecclesiastes is that under the sun and vanity of vanities. There's several definitions of that. The one that caught my attention this time is it's something that's like a vapor. It's here for a second and gone. And who was that? I started to say something when Becky said it a minute ago. Is that where we're at now? We're in the stage of the ages of our life now that's like quality of life. If I have that, what's going to be my quality of life? Because it's like, what's that? That verse says number your days, but it don't mean that away. It means to take account of what you're doing. One generation pass away, another generation come up, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also arises, and the man goeth down and hasteth to the place where he arose. Hasteth to the place he arose. The wind goeth toward the south, turneth about to the north, whirleth about continuing, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea this is good. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. All things are full of labor, man cannot utter it. His eyes are not. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that had been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof we may be said, see, this is new? It had been already of old time, which is before us. There is no remembrance of former things. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after.
It's just saying that you won't be forgotten after about 3 or 4 generations.
That's what it says.
Mine says there is no remembrance of men of old.
Yeah.
Unless you recorded down in history books, and we're fastly getting rid of those in
We're
our
fastly
schools.
getting rid of those. Thing to remember about, this hit me when I was studying. Solomon is writing this. Proverbs is when Solomon was with God. He was showing his wisdom. And the study that I read last night said Ecclesiastes is when he is not with God. And think about when it said under the sun, that's mortal man. Under the sun
Well, he's
is,
really searching for things in other places, not in the Word of God or not through God. He was looking at it with all his different wives he had, all of their beliefs and all that. And so he was being drawn away.
yeah, it just, what it was saying, what it said and what I read was, he said, Proverbs was when he was with God, he was showing wisdom. Ecclesiastes is showing his foolishness. The other thing it brought out was when God asked Solomon for wisdom, he asked for wisdom to rule. He was a very good ruler. Did not necessarily ask him for spiritual discernment. What's he doing right here? He's searching for something without God.
So something else I want to add to it. He wrote Song of Solomon, and what I looked at says he probably wrote Song of Solomon when he was younger. Like Brad said, Proverbs was when in his middle years, and then Ecclesiastes toward the end. One of the things that caught my attention is actually it's in 1 Kings. I didn't give this to Brad, but it's in 1 Kings 11:11. If you want the whole story, it's 1 Kings 11:9 through 14. And the only thing I would say different is I guess God speaks to Solomon, but he tells Solomon, I'm done. I mean, it's not like Solomon walked away from God. God in the Old Testament, it's a different story. God turned away from him, just like he did David. Or maybe not David, just like he did Saul. I was thinking when I read it, the words I was reading when I read it, and I've read it before. I use the term melancholy, and when you look up if you look up the definition of that, there's another word that they use to define it, and it's pensive, pensive, and it says engage or involved in reflecting deep, serious thoughts. And I thought about this because I mean I've heard it thousands of times. God, when Solomon asked God for something, he asked for wisdom. And the thing about that is, we're like, golly, he didn't ask for riches, he didn't ask to be popular, he asked for wisdom. And I read that definition, and maybe he asked for the wrong thing. And I know that's different, but the reason I said that, if you look at where he's at in Ecclesiastes, he's trying to ponder everything. And he's pondered himself into a position, because I think you said a minute ago, when I say he's pondering, he's looking at everything under the sun. That's all worldly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he can have it. There's nothing that he lays his eyes on that he can't have. The problem is, and I think the preacher says this a lot, doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt you to have stuff. It's when the stuff gets you, instead of you having it, it has you. And that's where he's at. This one of the things when I was trying to figure out something else, and I kind of remember this a little bit from when I studied it in the past. You look at the way things going. So Solomon is the king over all of Israel, everything. Okay, all 12 tribes. Is that? I think I'm saying that right. And we know in our studies that it's going to divide. You're going to have two nations is going to be in Jerusalem, Judah, and then the rest of them are the southern kingdoms. Is that correct? Or the north-southern kingdoms? Or yes. And in his process of being king, who did God, when he chose Solomon and gave Solomon wisdom, who did God put over the entire nation of Israel? No, I answered the question.
David?
Solomon. He put Solomon over the whole nation of Israel. Somewhere in his infinite wisdom, he decided to divide those up into 12 tribes and put overseers over every tribe. It didn't work out well. And so I just, somewhere in that overthinking, underthinking, looking at the worldly things, I believe that he did some things. Kim, when we was here last Sunday, you know, they wanted, the children of Israel, they had God. They wanted a king. They wanted rulers. So we had judges. And in Judges it said, after all, every man did what was right in their eyes. So Solomon's and I thought about this when I was looking at it. There is absolutely nothing there's nothing on earth that you can imagine that Solomon couldn't get. He could get it. He had way too many wives and concubines and everything else. That's what got him in trouble. He chased them, he married them, he wasn't supposed to do that, and began to pursue their gods and their religions and things like that. And that's where I think sometimes he might have just been too smart for his own good.
Well, all of these statements that he's making here is him trying to find satisfaction apart from God. Mm-hmm. He's trying to find satisfaction in all the worldly things. Remember, in Ecclesiastes, he is separated from God. So all of the statements he's making is while he was searching for satisfaction when he was apart from God. And they're not, things he's saying because of that are not always in accordance with God's thoughts. He's thinking fleshly now. And he's making the point, Alan said, he could have everything in the world he wanted. And he's not getting satisfaction from it. That's obvious because he's still looking. The satisfaction doesn't come from what you have here. Because what part of what you have here can you take with you when you go? Nothing. And that's what he's leading to in the beginning. He's going, I'm working my tail off to do all this stuff and get all these things and get all this. And it's for naught. Because when I leave, after a couple of generations, unless you're recorded, like Alan said, in history books, after 2, 3, 4 generations, you're forgotten. Let's face it, we're going to be. Unless we do something really dramatic that gets us wrote down in history books. But that's not what it's about. It's not about what you can gather here. Nothing wrong with having stuff. But it's all about what's going to happen when you go with him.
Did I read 1 through 14?
You read it all.
I read it all, baby, brother?
Yeah.
No, you stopped at 11.
I think I stopped at 11.
Okay. I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. And I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of the spirit. He's just saying it's all in vain. Everything here is in vanity. Nothing I do here means anything when I die.
Because he's using the eye.
Yeah, it's all about him. He's trying to find satisfaction outside of the will of God.
One of the things when I was talking about it a little while ago, one of the things I highlighted in this new lesson book that we have, it says, man cannot utter, one of the last sentence in this one paragraph says, faced with the monotonous drudgery and seeming meaningless, I can't pronounce that word, too many words in it, the meaninglessness of the life, Solomon had no words to say. He's going to say some words later. He may not have had any words to say right then, but he's. I think one of the points of the lesson, and I'm sure I'm probably the only one here that's ever did this before. When you get caught in one of them spells where it's just one thing right after another, after another, after another, and nothing's going right, and you look around like why am I even here? Because there's nothing working out right. And it sounds like to me, and it's hard to say, because he starts Ecclesiastes like this, but that's not how he's going to finish it. He's not going to finish it that way. He took his eye. What would be the thing nowadays? He took his eyes off the ball. His eyes. I'll never forget that when Chris Stack told me that Steve told him to guard his eyes. Guard your eyes. Because what your eyes see, we tend to react to it, or we tend to maybe want it. And wanting and needing it is two different things. God gives us the things we need, not necessarily the things we want. And when we don't get what we want, then it doesn't hurt to ask why. My thoughts about that too, I've been kind of framing something up in my mind because I've got some stuff I got to do in October. There's nothing wrong with asking why. I mean, you can ask God why. I used to think you couldn't do that, but you can. But more than asking him why, as we grow up a little better and get a little bit more into God's Word, instead of asking why, which there's nothing wrong, ask him to show you what his will for your life is. Because that's the why. That's the why we need to know. We think one way. We think this is the way things is. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Well, the things that happen to us, it's not by accident. Solomon doing what he was doing is not an accident. I mean, based on what I've learned since when I first looked at Ecclesiastes, I don't know how many years ago it was. Okay? I'm sure we was doing Sunday school lessons in it maybe 20, 25 years ago. I don't know. But I know then when I read that first chapter, I'm thinking like, man alive. He's in the dumps. You know, he's in the dumps. And the reason why is he knows God's not with him anymore. He knows it.
Nothing was fulfilling.
Yeah, the phrase, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. That's life without God. That's man walking and talking under the sun, trying to get something out of life.
And look in the wrong direction for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not looking where he needs to be looking to get his satisfaction. He's looking fleshly.
That's what made me, when I read it, the term melancholy came to my mind. I looked up, and I know the word, I couldn't have told you the definition. I would have told you the reason I looked it up, the reason I thought it was because I felt like he was in a bad frame of mind. And sure enough, but to twist that a little bit, the definition of the way I read it is when we get so consumed with, he's so locked in for searching for the truth when he really knows what the truth is, because he can't find it out there, and because he sees things happening. It's like it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter who you are. It does matter who you know as long as the one you know is him. But the whole thing is that, hey, you wake up in the morning, you live your life, you go to work, you come back home, repeat. And at some point in time, you're going to run out of years, and when you die, everything that you got's not going with you. And when you die, nobody's going to even remember who you were. And he tags that later on with generations. And man, we are there in this country. There's generations coming up that are ahead of us right now. That are going to be here when they're gone. And I've been being mild about it. I said we have at least 1 or 2 generations, maybe 3. It could be more than that. That really don't know who God is. And you said, well, no, they don't want you to say Jesus. They don't know who He is either. And if they do know who He is, they don't believe He's there. And there's sad to say, there's some of us older people, because at some point in time, and I was talking to someone the other day about this. It might have been here, I don't know. But man, I'm 72 now, and I've been hearing since as long as I can remember, He's coming back any day. And that, what caught my eye about that vanity, one of the definitions is that it's like a vapor. It's here for a little while, and it's gone, and it never comes back. And that's kind of like, that's how life is. You can't go back. Once it's there, it's done. There's no changing it. The only thing you can change is what you do in the future, if we can control ourselves. And that, I think that's, and as you move all the way through, and we're not, best I can tell, this may be the only lesson we're going to do in Ecclesiastes. But as you move on through it, you see he knows that God's not with him, but his attitude, he's trying to teach me and everybody else that reads this, because I've got the verses at the very end of Ecclesiastes where he makes that famous statement. Something like, who is man that God should be mindful of him? He's the only thing that we have. He's the only thing that we have. And he states that in his last two verses of Ecclesiastes.
It just amazes me that as Christians, I see Christian friends and fellowship because it lifts me up when I'm in my lowest. But when non-believers or people who don't go to church, it just, I don't know why it should amaze me. When there's a death or there's a severe illness, they call the people they know who pray. They call the people because they can't pray because they don't know the God that I serve. And it just astounds me that I said, I'll pray with you, but I don't know. I'm hoping it gives them comfort or stuff. I don't know, but it just amazes me that they're the people they call for, but they don't live for God or for Jesus. They just wanted to help it right now.
Well, Solomon, everything Solomon's got up to this point, where'd he get it? He got it from God. And now all of a sudden, he's not satisfied with what God gave him. He's trying to find satisfaction on earth. Danny?
I think a couple of things. Ecclesiastes, they question whether he wrote it or not. Proverbs, the first verse of Proverbs is almost identical to the first verse of Ecclesiastes, and it does say son of David. Their own, and it talks about king in Jesus, king in Jerusalem. There were only 3 sons of David that were kings. He was the only one who survived to be old, to be able to reflect back like this. So, it's pretty much a rock, and it does talk about wisdom, and he was the only one who was blessed with the wisdom. But that's just to reaffirm and let you know to be confident in who wrote it. But the thing about this, what it is he's looking back. He's giving us, he's saying, this is important. Pay attention. I'm looking back on my life. Pay attention to what I'm telling you. And what he's telling you is that under the sun, there's really, there's no reason. He's using earth, wind, fire, and water. Fire being the sun. But he's using these things. They all have a thing. They go through. That's our life. It's just a cycle. There's nothing to it. There's nothing. Life is, there's no purpose in our life without God. Without God, we might as well just, do whatever we want to do because there is no real purpose. Why do we have our government? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we be good? There is no reason without God in our lives. He states, and I said in my heart, come now I will test thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. You know, having a good time is pointless. There's no fulfillment in pleasure. And the wisdom that he asked God for, it doesn't satisfy in the end, because he had wisdom, and yet he kind of got bored, and he walked away from God, serving God, because he was bored, because it wasn't fulfilling him anymore. So he started trying to seek it in the pleasures, in his own vanity, through pleasures of the flesh, and doing things. And he's trying to say that if you don't go after your purpose, and there is only one purpose, that's why he's using all these other words, is to say that there is only one purpose. Without God, there is no purpose. And he's saying, through all these words, through all these other first few chapters, is that if you're doing all these things without the purpose, you know, under the sun, without God, there is no purpose in your life. There's no point. And then we will see as we go through the rest of the Ecclesiastes, we'll see these things.
It's just a shame. Like I said, God put him where he is. God gave him everything that he had. And like Alice said, he could have had anything under the sun.
He had it.
He had it.
Well, the last two verses in the last chapter of Ecclesiastes, I have them underlined. It says, "Then let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Not just a little, a whole duty of man. "For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or evil."
Yeah, it's just, evidently the book of Ecclesiastes is him doing experiments.
Well, his wisdom went full circle. He finally used
Yeah,
his
that's what I'm
wisdom
saying.
in the
It's
right way.
the whole book of Ecclesiastes is him trying all these things and failing with them, and then finally at the end he comes back full circle to where he was when he started.
I think that's where he's at. Everything has come, and is coming
Is
to an
coming.
end for him. And now the truth is smacking him right side upside the head, and he's reflecting back. That's why when I looked at that, it said he wrote Song of Solomon in his youth. He wrote Proverbs in his middle ages when he was walking with the Lord. And I think about this, and life is monotonous because, like Danny says, he uses the wind and the rain and the water. Everything that we see, the rain comes and it goes, and the sun goes up and the sun goes down. It's like he just used the words like the sun chases itself around and around and around. And that would tend to get monotonous, but when we take the time to find what our purpose is in life, there's going to be time when we get to the good thing, the great thing for us is we have the Bible to read about these great men in the Bible and how they succumbed to the same things that we do. But Solomon said, listen, I had everything. And he did. He had anything and everything he wanted plus. Okay? And it was nothing. At the end of the day, it was nothing. So what's the real purpose? Trusting God, follow God, find out what God wants you to do, and have joy in doing it. I was sitting here thinking a minute ago, just a second ago when he was talking. I had a cousin call me from Louisiana day before yesterday, and I thought maybe she had beat the time on the phone with me. She beat my oldest granddaughter, but my oldest granddaughter still has the record. We were only on the phone for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I've been on the phone with her for about 2.5 or more. And I just listened to her tell me her husband died young in his 40s, great Christian woman. And I'm talking to her on the phone, and I don't mind. I'm at that point now, and I know her. I said, Joanne, how old is she? Her name's Joanne. I said, how old are you now? She said, well, I'm fixed to be 80. I'm talking to her on the phone. It sounds like I'm talking to a 20-year-old. I mean, she sounds great. And we just began to talk, and we just shared a glimpse of her life with me about her time with her husband. My cousin, he died young. She's got 4 kids. Her kids are great Christian kids. Her son is phenomenal. I've been talking to him quite a bit. And she began to tell me about the things that she did. She served in Brazil as a missionary. and now she's doing this and serving the church and doing this and that. And I mean, she's got a purpose in life, and she's lived life for her through the fullest through Jesus Christ. If you listen to her, everything's centered around her ministries, her missionary fit time in the field, the service and stuff that she does here. She said she didn't go. She said, I don't go to church. She said, Alan, I don't go to church with the kids. I just can't get used to one of them churches got 700 or 800 people in it. I need one of them little bitty ones, you know. So she serves in one. But I thought about her when the lesson that I listened to her talk, and I enjoyed talking to her too. When she just told me all about the things she done, and when I read the lesson, I thought, well, you know, here you go. She has a purpose in life. It's keeping her young, keeping her going, keeping her busy, and she loves it. And I got a feeling that she's going to probably be doing that until God calls her home.
And that's where Solomon should have been.
He should have been. He just didn't quite
That's
make
where
it.
he should have been, but he wasn't. He was at a point where he wasn't satisfied with what he was doing. He wanted more. And it's a lesson. All of this is a lesson for us. This whole book is a lesson for us.
That's a good one.
Because we do the same thing over and over and over, just like Israel did all through the Bible. They're with God and then they leave God. They're with God, then they leave God. And times are good when they're with God. And you sit back and say, well, gee, why didn't they learn? Yeah, gee.
Why don't we learn?
Why don't we learn?
And we have it right here to learn too.
We have the benefit of being able to look back and see it. They didn't necessarily have the benefit of that.
I mean, if you stop and think about it, I think everybody here knows one of the smartest, wisest man that ever walked the face of the earth outside of Jesus was Solomon. And in a sense, for a point in time, it didn't do him any good. I still can't wrap my mind around, and it's not anything that I need to know. And let me just say it this way: when I get to heaven, if I see Solomon there, I won't be surprised. That's just that simple. I mean, God used him. He was God's man. Did he wander away from God? Yes, he did.
Yeah, but what did he say at the end of the book?
Becky read it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to speak for anybody but myself. I have times in my life where I was frustrated, bored, looking for something more exciting or fulfilling, let's just say, in my life than where I was at, and I wandered away. The good thing is, the great thing is that God always would take me back.
Grace.
But I had to open my eyes and realize, just like that son wallowing with pigs, I didn't realize I was wallowing with pigs. I didn't understand that I was until one day God used His Holy Spirit and said, open your eyes, just look around and see the spiritual world and not see through your stupid eyes. And I did, and I realized where I was at. Mm-hmm. And then I could go back just like Solomon did because of the grace and the mercy.
Okay, I'm going to tell y'all something we need to quit enough.
Yeah.
If you do go look this guy up, please don't flip out, okay? There's a guy, for whatever reason, I'm looking through, trying to find a song, and we watched the Astros, we watched it, and I flipped over and I thought, man, the Gate the Hour's on, I'm going to watch it. Well, it wasn't on, so I had to find it somewhere else, and man, I'm glad I found it. I mean, just about the time I clicked on it, there was this young black guy singing. I'm going like, man, I ain't never seen him before. And let me tell you something. His name is Chris Blue, okay? And he's got I guess it's a CD. I'm not going to say record. I don't even know if they do those anymore. But he's got some songs out. It's called Foundation, okay? At the very end of it, he sings Joy Comes in the Morning. And he gives his testimony before he does that. I would tell you to look it up and listen to that man's testimony. Because I'm going to tell you, for a young man, we're studying Solomon, and the words that he said and the way he described and gave his testimony, it's like, dang, I'm thinking I'm gonna record that and put it up on the screen and make us listen to it every Sunday morning. And it's Joy Comes in the Morning. Boy, is that a hymn? I think so. And it's all hymns. Matter of fact, if you want to look it up. But let me just tell you, I said, if you'll remember, turn that off. If you'll remember, it's a young black man. And let me